Hello, in this video you can watch an interview I did with someone who has driving anxiety, and I'm going to be giving you lots of useful hints and tips, as well as one massive tip if you've got a fear of driving of any kind, whether it's speed, highways, driving downhill, driving at night, driving in the dark, whatever. I'm going to give you a massive tip on how to fix it later in this video. So just in case you don't know who I am, that's me, Paul. I've been a driving instructor for over 20 years. I've taught over 1,000 people to drive. I've been using hypnosis with learners for over 17 years. And I've been working online as a hypnotherapist specialising in driving anxiety for over 6 years. So I'm going to play the video now. I've skipped the first part where we just got through the preliminaries, like, do you know it's being recorded, that kind of thing. And I'm going to ask him 5 questions from me. Then 5 questions that people ask in the comments quite commonly. And then he's going to ask me some questions and some very interesting stuff comes up. So let's play the video and I'll be pausing it now and then to butt in and give you some hints and tips and commentary. But let's get moving. So the first question, this is one from me, is what's the problem?
So the problem is that I used to be a really keen and confident driver and I used to love driving. And then I think about 10 to 15 years ago, I started getting panic attacks when driving on motorways. And it started in a very small way, I think. I just had a sort of panic attack and breathlessness and I just calmed down. And then it just escalated, got worse and worse and worse to the point where I just don't drive on motorways at all. I just completely avoid them. And I only drive in town on sort of just small roads.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm saying yeah, then we'll come back to that later on. But that's his problem. That's what he thinks his problem is. That isn't the real problem. He says he has a fear of driving on motorways. And I'd like to point out briefly, I'm doing this to help him and to help you. I don't want to seem rude, but there are some things I'm going to say which might seem to be rude, which this is all leading up to the point I'm going to say later on, the big tip of how you fix your fear of driving. So that's question 1, and let's carry on playing the video. So how has it affected your life?
Completely, sort of completely ruined it in a way because I just don't feel mobile. I don't feel...
One little thing there, sort of completely ruined it. Now, you might know I'm smiling because if you don't know, I've been trained in many different types of hypnotherapy. I've trained with some of the top people in the world. And what he just said then is gold dust, sort of completely. I'm not being rude to him. This is what I mean. I'm not being rude to him. I am picking up what he says because this is how you do it. It's not about driving. If you don't know, driving anxiety has nothing to do with driving. And I'm smiling because he's already in the first few minutes, 2 minutes in, and he's already given me massive signals as to what the problem is. Sort of completely ruined it. You can't sort of completely ruin something. That's the real thing coming up. He's unconscious. He's telling me it's ruined his life, but his conscious is kicking in and protecting him by saying, oh, it's only sort of completely ruined my life. It has completely ruined his life. And again, that's not me just saying he will say this himself later on. This is what a true therapist is looking for. Notice I'm watching him carefully. You can't see him because he didn't want to be shown on camera. That's fine. Let's just play the video and carry on.
Yeah, I'm not free to go where I want.
And this again, now he's sort of going, yeah. Again, I'm not being rude. I'm just saying that's his conscious and unconscious fighting. It's like, oh, what shall I say? The real answer is it's wrecked his life. But it's not too bad, but it's sort of, but it hasn't really. It's your conscious and unconscious fighting each other.
I just feel very restricted, whereas before I could go anywhere, anytime, and I have no hesitation to drive anywhere at all in the country.
So what's different about the country? Now, I already know this because I've been doing it for years. I've done it with hundreds of people. I didn't ask him that, I don't think, but that's one thing I would ask, but I know what the answer would be. But let's carry on. So when it changed, what actually happened, like the moment you had the first ever panic attack, whatever you want to call it, what exactly happened? Now, this is getting to what we call the activating event. I don't always use this, but an activating event is what set the problem off. This is what a lot of people think the problem is. It isn't. This is when it activated. This is not when he actually got the problem. So there's the activating event, which is when it kicks off. And everyone thinks, oh, that's the problem, it's driving. It isn't. That's when another problem that he'd got years earlier, that was installed years earlier, that's what we call a sensitizing event. That made him sensitive to something. Driving was the activating event. So it's like it installed a program years ago, it just ran the program when he was driving. So everyone thinks, oh, it's it's driving anxiety. It's not.
I was just driving along. Wasn't very far from home. I think I just entered the motorway.
And you notice, again, not being rude as I half close my eyes. He keeps saying I just got driving, I was just on the motorway. He's trying to rationalise the problem, which you can't do because it's an unconscious problem and he doesn't know what it is. And he's doing everything to rationalise it. He was just this, he was just that, I'd just done this. That's not going to help because that's just you rationalising the problem.
And I think I was.
In other words, you're coming up with excuses because you don't know what the real problem actually is. So again, most therapists will waste time working on excuses. I don't do that.
Stressed, but I was okay. I'd driven when stressed before. And I just felt this surge of what I can only call like fear. And
it just felt what I can only call. So he's trying to find an answer. What is this feeling? But he doesn't know what it is. That's our point of therapy. Forget the driving. We want to find out what that feeling is.
It was like I didn't even know what it was because my heart started racing. I felt sweaty. I felt fear, and then really the main thing I remember was my heart was pounding, and I just didn't know what was happening.
Now, the heart pounding and not knowing what's happening is not important. Many people say do breathing exercises. I think he mentions breathing exercises later on. Breathing exercises work on symptoms. Your heart racing is because of thoughts in your mind from the old event. You see how we barely, 3 minutes in, and already it's starting to unravel. It's nothing to do with breathing exercises. Be calm, relax, relax, relax. Do meditation. No, because that's working on a symptom of his heart beating faster. That's the symptom. We want the real problem.
I couldn't explain it at all. It was very strange, so I had to pull over. And I did some deep breathing to try and calm.
There you go. Did some deep breathing. Perfectly natural. It's what people do. Again, I'm not being rude to Chet. This is just what people do. And I'm laughing a bit because I've heard all this hundreds of times before. And I think, oh, here we go again.
Calm down.
Yeah. When you say you were, and notice I'm kind of dismissing, like, yeah, I'm not going into, oh, well, we need to do breathing exercises. You need to do my 6-step program to learn to breathe better. I'm going, yeah, because I know that's nothing to do with it. I'm just dismissing it because that's what a good therapist does. We sort out the good from the bad. Most therapists, they will focus on the bad things that don't matter. Stressed. What was that stress about, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, it was to do with...
See, I'm getting to what was the stress about. It's not the driving. What was the stress about?
My family, my parents, basically. There was some difficulty.
Family and parents. How many times have I heard that?
Going on, health issues, and also just like interpersonal issues.
So lots of things going on in his life. And again, I'm not being rude, not picking on him. I'm not going to show his face or anything. This is what people say. And these are the real issues coming up.
And things like that. And I'd moved back with them.
He'd moved back with them. Notice I'm smiling. Listen to what I say in a moment.
Because my, change of career, change of course and things like that. So it was a little bit of friction and stress. But I thought that was all sort of something I was used to.
Oh, I see. You'd moved home just before this began.
Yeah, but maybe within a year, yeah.
Notice my unconscious there. You notice I'm sort of itching. Oh, this is good stuff. It's like, oh, here we go. I didn't even know I was doing that, but there I am. I'm itching. My subconscious is itching.
Maybe about a year.
That's interesting because I very often, it's the cause, not the cause, but it's very often the case that when you move, it kicks off. The driving anxiety kicks off when you move. Again, moving is not the cause. I'm correcting myself. It's not the root cause. It's just what sets the problem off. Anxiety often begins at times of change. And what more change can there be than moving house is one of the most stressful, biggest changes you ever go through. I've moved house just a few houses down the same road, and even that could be stressful. So the third main question is, what have you done to fix it? Here we go. What's he done to fix it? Let's see.
I I was going to say I haven't done much, but actually, what I did was for sort of years, I would say, I just tried to push through it, and
Yeah.
I tried to just keep going back, and I would
Notice I'm laughing because I've heard this before. I've just tried to push through it. Everyone says in the comments, why don't you just push through? We'll come back to this later on, but people who say just push through, just fight it, just beat it, they don't get it. They don't understand what's going on because that isn't the problem.
do like long journeys, like over 100-mile journeys in sort of
And I should point out, if you want to see the whole video again, it will be in the description without me interrupting.
constant states of panic, sort of rising and falling states of panic, alternating between panic and feeling okay for a little bit, and then the panic coming back, and it just
Where's the video
all the sort
frozen?
of rising and falling states of panic,
It's a bit strange. The video's frozen. I'll just get the video unfroze and I'll come back. Okay, I've changed to a different player because it kept freezing in the other one. So here we go.
falling states of panic, alternating between panic and feeling okay for a little bit, and then the panic coming back, and it just wore me out. So I just stopped. And then since then, I've read a couple of books which we just said exposure therapy, and had the kill switch or something, the panic switch or something,
Hmm.
and nothing really worked.
Now, do you hear what he's saying here? The kill switch, the panic switch. The reason nothing really works is because that's someone else's solution to your problem. People say, I've got the answer. I know how to fix it. I've got this thing called, and then the name of their therapy. I've got this method called. No, they're just gimmicks. That's someone else thinking that they have the answer to your problem. They don't. The only person who has the answer to the problem is you. Yeah. Have you ever done any kind of therapy, like one-to-one or anything? No, some being a bit dismissive to anyone because that's not going to help fix it. That's not how you do it. Not that.
Yeah, but the therapist there just did the same thing. It just suggested exposure therapy and sort of
Like, I have to say this, right? These people who say do exposure therapy, I always find this hilarious. Like, what is the point of someone coming to you saying they can't drive and you say, hey, I've got a brilliant idea. Why don't you go driving? Like, what is the point in paying someone to just tell you, oh, you've got a fear of flying? I've got a great idea. Why don't you just go flying? How's that going to work? You can't go flying because you've got a fear of flying. You can't go driving because that's when the problem comes up, right? It is pointless. Exposure therapy is rubbish. I have done a video, which is in my online course, Road. If you don't know, I've got several programs. There's a free course, a paid course, and a one-to-one course. And in the course of videos, which is called Road, I'll put links, I'll put links to these in the description. Road stands for Remotely Overcome Anxiety of Driving. I've got a video in there where it shows you how to do exposure therapy properly, not just forcing yourself into it, how to actually do it in a way that works.
recorded a kind of audio about driving.
There you go. The therapist recorded an audio about driving. So what has that got to do with anything? Right. How can you record an audio for driving? Now you might say, well, you've just said you do videos. My videos help you to think. They're interactive. I don't just sit there saying, you can drive, relax, relax, you are calm, and you feel so calm and you feel relaxed. That's not what my videos are at all. Mine get you thinking. It's just like doing a real session. I'm going to be asking you things, getting you to come up with the answers. I don't sit there pretending that I have the answers, because I don't. I like relax, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's often what people say. That wouldn't have worked because that isn't the problem. As I always say, it's not the problem. Driving isn't the problem. So you see, these people have these entire courses, come out in my car, drive, do driving lessons. I'm a driving instructor. And they mean, well, we'll drive. You're not even working on the right thing. You're completely wasting people's time and money by taking them out driving in that way. So the fourth question is, what's the worst thing about having this problem?
it has yeah, it's
Now, you notice how he's struggling to answer this. That's important because if you ask someone a question and they answer straight away, it's nothing. If you say, like, have you ever tried just driving? Well, yeah, I've done that. Doesn't work. If you ask a question and it gets people, they pause, they're not sure, they're thinking of the answer. That's the point. They're thinking, they're looking for their solution, they're looking for what's going on in their mind. Notice I'm smiling because I'm sort of smirking because I know what's going on in his mind.
I feel like
I feel important that you feel.
incomplete as a human being, to be honest with you, with
Hmm.
this because I just cannot.
Notice I'm smiling. He's going to say that again in a moment and I'll talk about it.
I can't understand how it's gone from one extreme to the other, where I used to race along with complete confidence, and now
Yeah.
I just cannot drive at all. On even dual carriageways sometimes scare me, and motorways, and I don't. I feel like I sort of stopped working a while ago because again, because of combination of circumstances,
Hmm.
and it
I should explain when he says he stopped working, that means like as in his job, not that he stopped working.
it just feels that this was the final nail in the coffin of completely shutting down my life.
Can you listen to this right? Can you hear any therapist who is not hearing what I am? That's where you're not going to get a result. Can you hear what he's just said? He felt incomplete. What else did he say? The final nail in the coffin. Let's run it back and listen to what he says.
I sort of stopped working a while ago because again, because of combination of circumstances,
Hmm.
and it just feels that was the final nail in the coffin of completely shutting down my life in a
Completely shutting down his life. The final nail in the coffin. That's a metaphor. The metaphor is your unconscious or subconscious mind speaking. That's the problem. The final nail in the coffin. Now remember that. What made him say the final nail in the coffin? Remember that.
way, and
Oh,
feeling very, very restricted and limited in just a sort of incomplete life sort of thing. Yeah.
so when you say incomplete, which part of you is missing? Notice I've got him again, and I did actually say I wasn't going to do any therapy. Well, I kind of cheated a bit because to reward him or to, not reward him, but to, to thank him for doing this, I actually did throw him some free therapy. And notice how I got him with that question. What part of you, or did I say what part of you is missing? What part of you is incomplete? It got him. Which part of you is missing? Look at how long it's going to take him to think of an answer. And this is his subconscious working.
I want to say some
15 odd seconds to answer a question. That's some deep searching and processing going on. Not, why don't you go driving? Why don't you get a smaller car? Why don't you play relaxing music? And people will just answer those questions instantly. When they can't answer the question, you're getting somewhere. And there's so much stuff coming up.
sort of carefree kind of teenage part of me that was
Oh,
sort of fearless.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's often the way. Because if you went back to the 20-year-old you, they wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fifth main question, again, not always the case, because some people do this thing where they say the way to fix any anxiety is you close your eyes, you go deeper, 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 and go and meet the younger you and hug them and tell them they were loved and gain knowledge from them. Yes, you can do that, but in the right time and place. You don't just do that because it's just your method. If the client tells you that's what they need, it's what you do. But you don't just blindly go and do this in what we call inner child. You don't meet the inner you. Let's carry on with the fifth question. Now remember what he's been saying so far. Question is, how would your life be like without this problem?
I'd just be so much more independent. I'm having to rely on getting lifts. I'm relying on public transport. I'm relying on sometimes, you know, paying for like removal vans and things, which a lot of that I could do myself. I'm in the middle of a sort of house move, and I could have done a lot of that myself, and
Mm.
I can't because I can't drive long distance on motorways. I could even have. I didn't drive abroad, but I could have done that as well. I would be drive. I would be I would be doing a lot more things. My life would be richer and happier.
Yeah.
And
And I like to point out here, this is one reason therapy is not cheap. Okay. People sometimes, not often, quite rarely actually, but people sometimes say, oh, it's too expensive, I can't do it. We're not just fixing your driving, as I'll say to him in a moment. This is what people don't get. When you get therapists who are charging £200, £400, they don't have a clue what they're doing, because the reason they are doing it so cheaply is they don't even know that they are changing people's lives. You're not just driving a car. It's nothing to do with the driving. This gets into your life and rips it apart. It ruins relationships. It ruins your kids' life. Your kids can't get to go on vacations and days out, whatever. That's why good therapists who know what they're doing will charge more, because we understand we're not just fixing a fear of driving. You don't have a fear of driving. You have something much deeper, which takes a lot more skill to fix. And that's why driving anxiety courses with instructors will not work. Maybe with me, because I know what I'm doing, but not with your average instructor who's jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, I do driving anxiety courses. No.
yeah, it's the opposite in a way.
Yeah. The reason I ask that is a lot of people think it's just like you can't drive to the shops and that's it. It's much more than that. It's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So I've got 5 questions now. Okay. So these are 5 questions from from viewers. These are common questions people put in the comments of my videos. I want you to notice, I'm going to play this part without stopping that much. Notice how different his reaction is to these questions compared to my questions. These are not from me. These are from the comments that people often ask. So they might seem a bit abrupt, but this is just what people ask. You've already answered this one in a way, but the first one is, why don't you just push through, just fight it, beat it, just get on with it, just man up?
Yeah, I did.
And I'm laughing because that is such a stupid thing to say to someone with anxiety. Just man up, just get on with it. And notice he's answering me straight away. No thought. This is just a pre-rehearsed answer he's giving. So he's not thinking of a solution. He's just coming out with the same old answer he's given before.
Try to do that. And I was told myself all those things. I said all those things to myself. Just, this is ridiculous.
See, he's already said it all. He's already said all those things. Do you not think that people who have a fear of driving have at some point gone out and driven and they've done everything they can to push through? Don't you think they've already done that?
So what the hell are you afraid of? You've done it. You love this. What's going on?
Conscious rationalizing. That's why. Yeah, conscious rationalizing. He's coming up with conscious reasons and excuses. It won't work. They're just conscious fluff.
And I would try and push through. And I'd do long journeys in high states of panic, pulling over quite a bit, much more than I used to try and do deep breathing and calm down. And it
deep breathing, calm down. Listen to what he says.
Never helped.
He never helped. And I'm laughing because he doesn't help, because that's symptoms. We don't care about symptoms. We care about the root cause, what it really is, not the driving, not the breathing exercises.
Ultimately, the panic just kept coming back and back and back again and again.
And he will, because your mind's saying, you're not listening. I'm telling you this stuff and you're not listening. Listen to me. I'll tell you why that is, because all this stuff about push through is conscious, but your problem is subconscious. So it's like you're speaking in a different language. You can say, fight it, push. You're not talking in the right language. That's why it doesn't work. So the second one people often ask is, why don't you just go and see a doctor, get some pills or something?
I have actually been.
Now he's thinking there. Let's see what he's thinking about.
Into a doctor for the thing is, actually the panic affected different areas of my life as well. I even it was in an extreme state where I was even panicking just walking down the street, to be honest with you. And
what did he just say when he was walking down the street? So tell me, if his problem came up when he was walking down the street, What is the point in putting him in a car and saying, just do it, just push through, you can do it? It's not the driving. Have you got the message yet? It's not the driving. And if anyone watches this video and they think it's not, it is the driving, that's what it's about. I can't help you. No one can help you. You'll have the problem until you accept it's not about driving.
And I did go to a doctor and I had procedures done and investigations done, and nothing physical was found. I was convinced there was something physically wrong with me,
Yeah.
and nothing was found. So, and also, I'm a bit hesitant to take any
You won't find it because it's not physical. It's in your mind, not in your body.
medication that acts on the brain or that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, I did see a doctor and a therapist, and a number of different therapists as well, and
Yeah.
it didn't work.
It didn't work because you're not being rude to him. This is what I said to him. Because you're focusing on the driving, you're doing breathing exercises. It's nothing to do with any of that. Just to hammer that message home yet again. Doctors, people sometimes say to me, you shouldn't be doing this, you're not a doctor. No, I'm not a doctor. That's where I can help. I can't help you with a broken leg, broken arm. I don't know about viruses. I don't know about that sort of stuff. But the mind, yeah, I can help you with that. Anxiety, fears, phobias, yeah, bring it on. Yeah, it's often because like people, and doctors, by the way, do recommend hypnotherapy. You can get hypnotherapy in places like the NHS do it in the UK. So you'll probably be waiting a few years on a waiting list, but you can get it. And no disrespect to them, but I've known them and they're not the best trained. They're often just your basic lie down, relax. You can do, you can drive. I don't want to knock people who are trying to help, but there's no point in trying to help. You've got to help. People think it's just about the driving, but you just said it wasn't. It affected you when you were walking. So that proves it's not just the driving. It's not even about the driving. I'm not medically trained, but that's just what people often ask. They often say, why not just go to a doctor? The third one people often ask is, why don't you just take driving lessons?
In a way, I sort of did because a friend said, "Oh, I'll sit with you while,"
Yeah.
and he's an experienced driver, although he doesn't drive at the moment, and it just made it in some ways. I want to say it made it worse because I was worried about him being in the car.
It made it worse. That's interesting because sometimes it makes it worse, sometimes it makes it better. And if you go out with someone, people will often do this. They'll go out on a driving lesson with an instructor and they'll say, oh, it's gone. I feel fine. I feel great. And so I'm laughing because those of you who've done this know what's coming. You go out on your own and it completely comes back worse than ever. It's like, you thought you got rid of me. You haven't got rid of me because I'm not to do with driving.
The panic didn't go away. The panic, it reduced for a little bit and then it came back, and there's no predicting it. So
there is no predicting it. This is why it's so random, so annoying.
I don't see how. I mean, I know how to drive, and when I'm in town, I can drive. So even quite confidently in within a town. So it's not that I can't drive and I don't know how to drive. And
it's not that these people can't drive. People who say, "Oh, just take lessons," they know how to drive perfectly well. There's something stopping them.
Really, but not knowing how to handle the panic or why it's there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, this isn't me asking this question because I'm laughing because I know how pointless these questions are. Number 4 is, why not just stop driving? Just give up and your problem will go.
It just feels so limiting. It feels like a very limited life. It feels I'm not independent. I can't do what I want. It's more expensive. And
this, by the way, there's a pause on these questions as well. Sometimes you can get a pause because people just think, well, that's such a stupid question. There is a difference in the way people look, and you can't actually see him now. But you can ask someone a question which makes them think because it's just so stupid. That isn't the kind of question you want to ask. Sometimes people ask things like, so what would be the solution if you had the solution, knowing the true solution to your only solution? And if you only had your meaningful solution, what would that solution be? And you sit there thinking, what? What are they talking about? That's not the right kind of confusion. You can confuse people in a good way or a bad way. That's for another video, or this will already be, it's going to be too long already.
I want to try and understand it, and I used to love it. This is the thing, I've lost something that I really used to love.
Boom. I've lost something that I really used to love. remember that. What did he say before? He was missing a part of him. Final nail in the coffin. He's lost something he used to love. He was missing something he used to love.
And I want to get back to it.
Yeah. You know, that's the third time you said that, at least. You said about being incomplete. There's a part of you missing. I said that, but that's the big thing for you. That'll be like the key to fixing this. Number 5 is, why don't you just get an automatic car or a small car? Or have you got an automatic?
one of the cars I do drive in town is one of the cars I have driven is an automatic, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing happens in there. So
a lot of people say, "I'll just go automatic. That'll fix it." It won't do anything. Going electric won't fix it because it's nothing to do with driving. So thanks for that. That's really been helpful. Is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Well, I have seen a lot of your videos, Paul, and actually, what you say is the first time anything's made sense in the sense that of all the advice about driving anxiety, it's when it's your kind of mantra, which is driving anxiety has nothing to do with driving. That's the first thing that shocked me because I'd never heard that before from anyone in such a succinct and targeted way, precise way. And I thought, oh, what? And then I thought, oh God, and it was really intriguing. I watched a lot. So this is a quite complicated question, but it's sort of like you say, I think it won't make sense because the problem itself doesn't make sense. It really makes no sense that I used to love something and I just can't. I'm terrified of the one.
I'm still here, by the way. I'm just letting this play. I'm going to explain what I mean when I say driving anxiety won't make no sense. If ever someone is giving you a solution, which is all logical and it all adds up and it all makes sense, it'll fail. Listen to why.
Thing I used to love. And it's sort of like...
Isn't it funny, I have to say, so many therapists chase after the logical solution. It must add up. It must make sense. I asked them one question which floors them. Why? Why must it make sense? Well, because it must make sense. I'm a psychologist. It must make sense. There has to be a logical, rational explanation. Why? Oh, because there must be, because, why? You can floor them with that. Right, it doesn't have to make sense. Nothing is off the table. When I do therapy, anything goes. I don't narrow it down to, it must make sense. No.
Is it because the subconscious has its own to the rational mind, very strange way of encoding things and representing this fear, whatever it is? It's just something that I suppose it's what you say. It just won't make sense in a logical way to the conscious mind. Is that what?
That's exactly right. Because if I give you one example from years ago, somebody once said when we did a session, they were imagining a piece of paper crumpled up, and they were saying, "Look, I don't get what this is. I keep thinking this piece of paper crumpled. What's that got to do with anything? It makes no sense." And it turns out that was from when they did exams at school. They used to get nervous in exams and they used to get so angry they'd screw the paper up, throw it on the floor, thinking I'm useless, I can't do it. So their image of that piece of paper was the sort of fear of failure. That then came out when they were driving. So it does make sense when you do in reverse. You think, oh, well, it's just a fear of failure, fear of exams, whatever. And that kind of morphed into driving. But it doesn't make sense until you do it backwards. So if you try and work out what's a piece of paper got to do with driving anxiety, you'll never make it out. But if you know, so this is what I'm saying here, let me explain this better. If I said to you, your fear of driving is caused by a piece of paper, you would think I was crazy. But when you understand your fear of driving is caused by a piece of paper, because that's a symbol your mind has attached to you constantly failing at school, being berated by your parents, and all these negative feelings, you've put that all into a piece of paper. And that is now coming out when you drive, because when you're on the road, the drivers are bullying you, tailgating you, hassling you, and you feel the same lack of confidence, the same social awkwardness that you did as a child. People often go, oh. Now, yes, it does make sense. Didn't I just say it should make sense? It makes sense in reverse. When you have the full story, your mind will link all the pieces together. But if I just said to you, your driving anxiety is caused by a piece of paper. Huh? Now I'm going to go to the bloke down the road. He says it's about driving. I'm going to go and do a driving course, driving lessons. Yeah, you go and do that because it won't work. But my piece of paper would. In reverse, it's because of the exams and that was the paper. That's the way it kind of codes the message. So your mind works in. I need to point out, by the way, I have spent years training, I'd like to say. Some people do think that I'm just making all this up. I spent a long time training in college. I got the top award you can get in the UK for hypnotherapy. I've got loads of diplomas and this and that. And if you want to see all that, go to my qualifications page. Why don't I ever mention that? Why don't I put letters after my name? Because I don't care about anything other than the result for the client. I don't care about making myself look big with all these stupid letters after my name. Look at me, I've got this and that, and I've got degrees and whatever. Who cares? Clients want results, not stupid letters after your name. Colours, algorithms, shapes. So have you ever thought of anything when you're driving, any kind of thing? You might not have, but have you ever had any kind of image, symbol, shape, colour, anything like that?
No, I
This I'm smiling because I've just asked him a deliberately stupid question. I know what he's going to say because this is what some people who are watching on my work do. There are people who copy me and I watch the videos and they get it wrong and they just say to people, well, what symbol do you think of when you drive? Nope, that's not how you do it.
not that I can.
As I'll explain now.
No, the only thing that comes to mind is the feeling of being hemmed in. And, I think a lot of people say this, that, oh, the cars are coming at me from all sides and I can't cope with it. That's the only thing that comes to mind.
So let's go and work on that, right? Let's go and work on breathing tactics and techniques and let's get you so you don't feel scared when cars are coming at you from all angles. Nope, not going to work.
And also the thing of an open road with a big sky which never bothered me before. So it's just things like that. But not
I need
any
to say that
specific
because this goes back to what you were saying earlier about we're talking out consciously. So if I say to you, now we're talking consciously, but listen in a moment, I'm going to slip some unconscious stuff in and it's going to have a massive revelation. It's going to cause a massive revelation. Just listen to the problem. You're thinking, well, I don't know. But when you go unconscious, it pops into your mind. That's the difference. So all this talk about driving, go driving, you won't do anything. You've got to go into your unconscious, which isn't that weird. You go into your unconscious, then that's where the thing about the paper comes from. So there will be something in your mind like the paper, probably. Not for everyone. Sometimes it's just a feeling, but there'll be something. What I'd say for you is it's almost definitely this thing to do with being, how did you phrase it, incomplete. That word is really important because not many people use that word very often. And you said it twice, then you said it again a third time later on about having a missing part or something. I think I said that. But there's definitely something there. So have you got any, I don't know what the answer is going to be, but have you got any idea what that missing part is? It's kind of like I asked earlier.
Yeah.
You said it was the younger you.
Yeah.
What did that younger you have that you don't have now?
I just want to say a kind of enjoyment of life and less hang-ups about everything. Really.
So when did you stop enjoying life? Now, you may not notice this, and I don't think you knew this, but what is it I'm doing now? Any idea what it is I'm actually doing here? I'll tell you in a moment.
Okay, I mean,
Caused an emotion, caused laughter, unconscious.
an obvious big part of it was
Now, this is the revelation. And I'll tell you this because there's so much going on, I might forget. What did I just do for the last minute? That was hypnosis. Now, you might be thinking, what? But you never told him to close his eyes. I didn't. But you never told him to lie down. You weren't saying, relax, relax, relax. You feel calm, you feel safe. You need to put your arm out and your arm's getting heavier and heavier. That's not proper hypnosis. This is conversational hypnosis. This is one thing you can't do online in videos. So again, I'm not just plugging my courses, but the reason, of course, one of the courses is free and the other one's paid, you can't do this in videos. Doesn't matter how good you are, you cannot do conversational hypnosis in videos. And I've spent years training in conversational hypnosis. You can hypnotize people without them even knowing what's going on in a nice way, not in a bad way. Don't get people to do things they don't want. That's not how it works. Listen to what's coming up. But did you spot that was hypnosis? I bet you never spotted that. People think, well, that's not hypnosis. Yes, it is. Listen to what is coming up now.
My mum died in 2010 of cancer, essentially. And that was a huge part of it. But I was always...
His mum died. Now, what did he say earlier on? What did he say about being incomplete, missing part, the final nail in the coffin? His mum died.
I think I always had quite a high level of anxiety, social anxiety and things like that. But when that happened in 2010, I think it felt like the nail in the coffin. And
he said it again. His mum died. Again, I'd like to say thanks to Chet for doing this. It's really good, really brave of people to do this. His mum died, and he said twice the final nail in the coffin. What do you think is causing his driving anxiety?
And I kind of shut down and froze and isolated myself.
Is that when you moved house as well? That was later.
No, I'd moved back in, essentially moved back in with my parents before that, shortly before that, actually. Yeah.
Oh, right. So that was around the same time.
Yeah.
So you've had the move plus the passing.
Yeah.
So you've had two big changes, because this often happens when things change. So I'd say that it's definitely something to do with it. Have you mentioned those things in therapy before? Let's see what he says to this. This is interesting because what we've done, 17 to 18 minutes, and we've already pretty much cracked it. We haven't fixed it because we haven't done the work to fix it. It's a bit like peeling back an onion. An onion has many different layers, and as you peel back the layers of an onion, what happens to a lot of people? Well, they cry because onions make you cry. We haven't made him cry because it's not a session. I don't want to push him too hard. But if this was a session, I'd be going for going for the jugular, as I see the rather strange look on my face. I'd be going for it. I'd be going like a vampire going for the jugular. I would be right in there, getting that emotion out and fixing this. Worked on those.
Yeah, and I'm quite resistant to working on them.
Oh, there you go. There you go. See, I said, there you go. This is what I've heard over and over again. I don't really want to talk about that. It's not really something I'm comfortable with. Boom. We're going to talk about it. And, so look on my face. If this was a session, I'd be grabbing that like a cat digging the claws in. We're not letting that go. You're going to talk about it, and you're going to cry, and you're going to get your problem fixed. What makes you resistant? You don't, again, the poor therapist will be like, oh, I don't want to make people cry. Oh, no. Oh, I don't want clients crying. Oh, no. Just let's not talk about that. Let's do some breathing exercises and let's just meditate. No, let's get in and fix it. A good therapist, it's a bit like going into battle with someone. You want someone who's going to be by your side, have got your back. They're going to fix it. They're going to make you fix it. I don't fix it, but I'm going to get everything from them for them to fix it. I need to get too personal if you don't want to tell me, but what makes you resistant?
I hate feeling grief. I feel it.
Boom.
I feel I'm just going to collapse, and I cannot actually cry about things. I just never cry, basically. And
I mean, not picking on him. He's a great guy. He's really helped a lot. If you don't cry, you're gonna have big problems. This was a huge thing years ago, especially in England. This is about, people watch this from around the world, and it's often said about you must have a stiff upper lip, and British people never cry and men never cry. You're a wimp if you cry, and crying's for girls and all this rubbish. If you store up emotions, no wonder you get anxiety later in life.
Like I just can't
And I was taught that at school. We used to have teachers shouting at us. I remember one teacher in particular shouted at me, "You big girls blows, boys don't cry, you're a wimp, you're a girl, go and play with the girls, go and do knitting." That's what I was brought up with. It doesn't really work.
I think I haven't really dealt with the grief of my mum's death, basically.
There you
properly.
go.
Yeah.
So you've just got to one of probably the root cause of your problem. And all we've done is talked about it. So I'm not going to make you cry now, but if you cried, I wonder what would happen. Something to think about. Anyway, is there anything else? We'll leave it there because this isn't a session. We're not going to get too deep into that. But that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't go into it. I would in a session. I'd go for that. Anything else you want to ask or say or anything?
No, I'm a bit flummoxed by I'm quite intrigued by what we talked about. So
that's the point, to present options. He's now got options. He's thinking. He's not just stuck in the same old thoughts. I've got driving anxiety. He's thinking.
I'm just very grateful to just have the opportunity to talk to you, quite honestly, because I've seen a lot of your videos and they've been very, very eye-opening. So yeah, thanks very much.
That's good. Thanks for you. That's going to help a lot of people. So that's the end of the video. Now let me show you now, or tell you, what was this big thing that I'd reveal at the start of the video. And I just remembered this, and that's good. Now, again, this is not being rude to Chet or anyone else. We've just spent 90 minutes talking about the problem. Most of what he said was absolutely meaningless. And I mean that in the kindest possible way. If you go to a therapist and they give you a free 30-minute consultation and they're asking you, what happens when you drive? Have you tried doing this? Have you tried this? And they are talking about driving. They are not going to get anywhere because they are focusing on the very thing that has nothing to do with your problem. It's a symptom. It isn't the problem. Notice how in 90 minutes, and to be fair, a lot of that was messing about. We did 5 questions, which I know were pointless. So if you take out 5 minutes, 15 minutes, we've got to the root of his problem. And I knew nothing about this. He'd only emailed me twice, just saying, I want to do the video. And I replied, can you tell me briefly about the problem? He just said, oh, it's on Motorways. That was it. I did not in any way tell him what to say. I didn't coach him what to say. We didn't do more than 1 minute before we turned the recording on, just to set the cameras up and whatever. And if Chet, if you're watching this, please feel free to leave a comment in the description. You can answer people's questions or whatever. If you go to a therapist who is going to talk about your driving, it is a waste of time. I stopped doing consultations a while ago because they're completely unnecessary. The way therapy works is the therapist asks you questions which puts you into your unconscious, into a trance. Now, I know you can't see Chet, but he went into a trance several times in this video. Probably didn't even know it. They were the times when he was thinking, and he said he was like flummoxed and he's never thought of that before. He didn't actually say that, but when he was thinking of stuff that was new. That's how you fix it. In pretty much under 20 minutes, that's with a lot of messing about and joking around. We're already over halfway to fixing his problem. This is what I'd say when a true therapist who knows what they're doing is working with you. Not just an exposure therapist, someone who's just a driving instructor who means well, but they don't know what they're doing. What is the point in sitting and talking for 30 minutes about symptoms? Pointless. I don't want to know. I would not ask anyone in a session. I wouldn't even sometimes ask what's the problem, because it doesn't matter what the problem is. I'm only saying that to get a response emotionally, subconsciously. I'm not listening to the when I go driving on motorways, blah, 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 and when I did this, blah, blah, blah. Notice how I was watching for subconscious cues. I wasn't really listening to what he said about the driving. I was listening for his unconscious to speak, and I pounced on that And that's why in the 20 minutes, we've pretty much almost fixed it. Not fully. It may, but hopefully he did get some kind of result from this. I will let you know because I'm filming this just after we've made it. So it's kind of fresh for me to remember what happened. And I did give him some final tips when we stopped recording. But yeah, don't waste your time with therapy. So we're going to do long-winded consultations, asking you loads of questions, which have got nothing to do with anything. Get straight into a session with someone who knows what they're doing. Boom. You can look at a result. And I've often got a result with people in under an hour. I've done it in 20 minutes, from start to finish, 20 minutes, decades of anxiety gone. Not always, not for everyone, but it can be done. Why? Because I focus on what matters, which is not the driving. Check out these other videos of mine on the screen now. You can contact me through my website or find out more about my courses at firstdrive.com. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you again soon for more videos.